Hey, this is Justin with DayTradeTheMarkets.com on Thursday, August 22nd, and I wanted to look at yesterday's trading, the FOMC announcement, and today's trading, but really talk about what happened between those two sessions, which was the overnight, quote, overnight if you're in the US session, or the extended trading hours, and how we look at the overnight and how, we feel it makes sense to try to decipher the overnight. So to do that, let me just give a little bit of a background on, or a little bit of a review about what happened in yesterday's trading during the Fed news, and then I'll talk about the overnight, and then we'll talk about today's trading as well. What I've done here, I've got a 1-minute chart of the E-mini S&P, and I've taken off everything on our charts except for our high velocity moves and our aggression bars. So I've kind of simplified the chart just to make this point. And yesterday was a Fed day. What I've done here is I've just put the high of the day and the low of the day prior to the Fed announcement. And you can see that when the Fed announcement came, the initial reaction, it was around 46. We sold off 10 points pretty quickly in a matter of minutes. Some strong selling came into the market. So level 2 selling, high velocity move, and so forth. Now, once we got below the earlier low in the day, we couldn't really maintain that level, and instead you see a buying, level 1 bar, buying, high velocity move, and then some more buying comes in. So we had our first, step one, our first wave was a pretty strong selling wave, and we had a pretty strong reactionary buying wave, and it sets up kind of a little, what we call a little mini battle. Just as an aside, I know I want to talk about the overnight, but as an aside, when there's a major news announcement, there's a few ways you can look to trade that. One is you just hop on board and look for that big move, knowing that it's a risky play. Two would be you just stand aside and say you're going to wait for market conditions to settle down. And those are two divergent types of people that would look at those one way or the other. Okay, so it's important to know that. But the other thing you can do is kind of give it a little bit of time and wait for some structure to develop. And so what I mean by that is basically, again, we had this first selling wave, couldn't maintain below the low of yesterday. Then we had this buying wave, and it sets up this structure that we can look at. And again, it would be helpful with our support resistance zones if we're on there, but I'm trying to simplify this. So let's ask ourselves, who's going to win this structure? When we test the high or we test the low, you can see we start to get some buying aggression, high velocity move, and we take out this. So at this point, it's looking like, which would be a bit of a surprise as we went into the day with a down bias, but bulls really reacted and came in strong, and then, high velocity move, took out the earlier high in the day, did so with a level 3 level 3 buying aggression bar, an extreme buying aggression bar. And so whenever one of these comes in, especially on the high of the day, we ask ourselves, can the low of this bar hold? And you can see that right away, or a couple minutes later, we tested the low, rallied 5 points. We came back, they started to get some selling. We said, okay, we were actually doing a live session at this time. We said, this is a pretty major level we need to be watching. If the bulls are for real, which it appears they are, they need to be able to hold this level. And then you can see they bounced 5 points from here. They came down here, bounced another 2.5 points, but then you can see selling just started to come in, and we broke below the low of this level 3 bar, did so on some strong selling. And let me clear this out a little bit. Did so on some strong, here's the low of that level 3 bar right there. Okay, and you can see we held it the first time, held it the second time, but then we broke through. Did so on some level 2 selling aggression. Got back below the earlier high of the day, tested right back up to the low of that level 3, which is something we call a level 3 reversal type of a setup. Then you can see the selling really came in. Okay, so in this scenario, we closed basically on the lows of the day. So in this type of a scenario, it's what we call a neutral day and then a neutral day reversal, where you have the initial balance range from early in the day, the initial high and low of the day. We make new lows, that gets rejected, we make new highs. That's typically a very bullish indication, and we certainly got a nice little run off of that, but we would have expected, quote, expected this thing to close on the highs if bulls were really taking over. You can see they tested down here, couldn't do it. Not only did this get rejected, but then we closed basically on the lows. At the end of yesterday, that's a very bearish indication, and our expectation would certainly be for more selling in the overnight and more selling to come over the next few days. This is a very bearish indication, and that would certainly be our expectation. So that leads me to talk about the overnight, and I want to show that next. And with our thinking in when you're looking at the overnight, and certainly you could trade the overnight if you wanted, but assuming you're just a day trader, or trading the regular trading hours, for example, the way that we typically look or think about the overnight hours is go into the overnight with an expectation. What do we think the market should do? Okay, and yesterday obviously the expectation was that we're going to sell off more. So that would be our expectation. We would expect, if the bears were still in control, for the market to open below yesterday's low, for there to be continuation selling overnight. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll bring over the overnight chart here in just a moment. Here it is, and again I've taken everything off of the chart except for the aggression bars, and you can see what I've done here is, here's yesterday's high, here's yesterday's low. That's where we opened the overnight session. Now down here around the 32 area was an unfilled buying gap from a few months back. So that was our next target down, and you can see over the first few hours of the overnight session, this is a 3-minute chart, that's what I just happen to like to look at on the overnight. You can see that we tested down and sold off some 4 points right to this gap. But then we started to get some buying. You can see it's hard to see there, but some level 3 buying aggression comes into the market. We try to take out yesterday's low. It gets rejected the first time, but then we start to, decelerations, get a high velocity move, some level 1 buying, level 3 buying, high velocity moves. We did not meet expectations. In other words, we didn't stay below the low from yesterday. We bounced off of this support, and then we had actually attracted some buying. So we had some pretty strong buying as we opened opened the regular trading hours today, which was Thursday. Okay, so not only did we not stay below this 36 level, yesterday's low, but we bounced off of this gap from a few months ago, and then had a pretty severe rally for an overnight session. Okay, so what's that mean? Does that mean bulls have taken over? No, that's not what it means. It just means that it's a bit of a red flag. Our expectation from the overnight session was not met. We would have expected continuation lower, and we got that originally, but then we could not maintain that level. The market started to rally and had a more than a 10-point rally from its low off of in the overnight session. So it's a heads up that our expectation was not met, and so that if selling does come in, it could be legitimate. So let's look now at at today's session. And just as a review, here's our Fed, first bounce, second bounce, new highs, new lows. Okay, overnight session, we tested down to this gap, and in the overnight we rallied. So we did not maintain, we did not fulfill our expectations. So heading into the day, it's a bit of a red flag. It's something we want to be on the lookout for. And so you can see then here in the day session, the first thing that happened is we got some strong buying aggression, then some level 3 or extreme buying aggression, high velocity move, another wave of level 3 buying aggression. And again, when these level 3 bars come in, can the lows hold? Can we take out the highs? Can the lows hold? Can we take out the highs? Can the lows hold? Can we take out the highs? Okay, and this is the first time where, we got a bounce. We met our first expectation when this low was hit. We tested back to the high of it, but then we didn't get much follow through after that. And this was our first time. This is when the market went from kind of a one directional vertical move to more of a two-sided market, and you can see some selling started to come in here, but we couldn't have any follow through. You can see when we had these level 2 bars, the high of this held, the high of basically this wave held for a bit, and then we took it out. Okay, so it's showing us that this attempted reaction on the bear side didn't have much follow through, and then we just moved and actually made new highs over yesterday's high, and closed around that level. So does it mean that bulls have taken over this market? No, it doesn't. We still have a pretty strong selling gap from a few days ago. I would say that this market is still bigger picture, more bearish. It's just that I wanted to talk about how the expectation in the overnight wasn't met, and how that can be a bit of a clue to not necessarily make you just jump on board in this case, but to give you a little more confidence that this structure that we're seeing early in the day could be for real based on the rally in the overnight. So, and the expectation in the overnight not being met. So hopefully that makes sense. I know this was a little bit more of an abstract video than what I normally do, but hopefully that made some sense. And if you had any questions about that, certainly let us know. Otherwise, good trading on Friday, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.